Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you are watching Perspective. Water is the lifeblood of our planet. Every living thing on earth requires water to survive. Water sustains ecosystems, supports food production and is vital for both human and natural systems. For World Water Day 2025, the spotlight is on one of the most critical yet often overlooked ecosystems, glaciers. Glaciers and ice sheets store approximately 70% of the world's fresh water, making them vital to global water consumption and security. But these glaciers are melting faster than ever. As the planet gets hotter, our frozen world is shrinking, making the water cycle more unpredictable. For billions of people worldwide, meltwater flows are changing, causing floods, droughts, landslides and sea level rise. Countless communities and ecosystems are at risk of devastation. Saving our glaciers, therefore, is a survival strategy for people and the planet. The theme of World Water Day 2025 is glacier preservation. So what is being done to preserve the glaciers? What is the need of the hour towards prioritizing glacier conservation as a central strategy in the fight against climate change and the global water crisis? Further, what is India doing towards safeguarding our glaciers and ensuring long-term water security? We'll talk about these aspects and much more in this edition of Perspective. I'm pleased to welcome on the broadcast two eminent subject experts. With me in the studio is Mr. Kamal Kishore Soan, Additional Secretary and Mission Director, National Jal Jeewan Mission, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Ministry of Jal Shakti. Thank you, sir, for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. Joining us virtually is Mr. Anshuman, Director, Water Resources at the Energy and Resources Institute. Thank you, sir, for joining us as well on the broadcast. Since the theme of World Water Day this year is glacier preservation, let me begin the program by understanding the scale and the impact of melting glaciers. Mr. Anshuman, various studies and research have consistently showed us how glaciers worldwide are melting at unprecedented rates. So in the global context, give us and our viewers a sense of how the melting glaciers, the shrinking glaciers are impacting the planet and its people.
Sure. Thank you for having me and my wishes for the World Water Day. As you know, the theme for this year is glacier preservation and sustainable water management. Which basically is, referring to the glaciers, which are the water towers of the world. The issue is that over the years, this majestic ice masses which feed rivers like Ganga, Brahmaputra and Indus and support agriculture, hydropower and drinking water needs vast population downstream, unfortunately have been, impacted by the, climate change, which is delicately, altering the, balance of the glaciers. And the rising global temperatures are basically causing the glaciers to retreat at unprecedented rates, basically leading to the temperature rises and causing the glaciers to retreat. And this in turn, indirectly and directly affects the, reduced long-term water availability. It reduces the long-term water availability. It increases the risk of the glacial lake outburst floods, as we call it, GLOFs, and threatens the ecosystem and the human settled by and large. There are a number of studies which are there and which tells us, and the latest one is by, I think, ISOMOD, which has warned that Himalayan glaciers could lose up to 2/3 of the ice by the end of the century, if the current warming is, going to continue. So, and we have seen a lot of other, challenges, Kedarnath's, Chorabari Glacier, event, of the rainfall and the outburst and devastation caused in 2013. Is another example which created a lot of, loss of lives as well as, ecosystem disturbances. So the challenges are very visible. I was looking at another example of, Iceland called Okiakul in glacier in Iceland. Basically, it has been officially declared dead because of the human-caused climate change. So all of these, kind of challenges are very much visible, and we have been having monitoring systems, as well, and all of the information which is available as of now, I think indicate towards the, gradual decline in the, ice cover and the snow melt and associated, water flows downstream. So this is definitely going to be is getting a bigger challenge and is going to impact the downstream water systems.
So before we proceed, another related question on how the shrinking glaciers have heightened the risks of natural disasters. We've seen some natural disasters taking place, particularly in the Indian Himalayan region. But since the impact you spoke about is closer home, tell us about how the risks have increased because of the melting glaciers.
So, as I said, especially in the catchment in the basin, which is dependent upon the glacial water melt, which feeds to the rivers. Everything, ecosystem, the drinking water, the irrigation, the hydropower is linked with that. So, if the impacts of climate change because of the alteration in the melt flow declines the water, it basically affects all of these sectors: agriculture, hydropower, drinking water needs. And we are already struggling with the heightened demand of water amidst all the sectors by the developmental needs. Now, if this impact is going to be there, it is going to further aggravate this all water needs that we are having in all of these sectors. So essentially, it is going to affect us directly with the scarcity of water which gets downstream because of these impacts.
Okay, Mr. Soan, glacier preservation is important not only because of the risks that it poses, something that Mr. Anshuman has highlighted quite well, but also because it is a huge source of fresh water. Considering that India has about 18% of the world's population, but only 4% of the water resources, how crucial is it for us to preserve our glaciers, the nearly 10,000 that we have in the Indian Himalayan region?
What Mr. Anshuman has just mentioned is very true, and the impact of melting of glaciers is impacting the water delivery services in both urban and rural areas. We have got one national mission for clean Ganga. The purpose is not only to clean the Ganges, but to maintain the glacial level also. But we are experiencing very difficult situation as far as water services are concerned. If you take the example in rural areas and especially in Himalayan areas, source sustenance is the most important thing. If you take the example of National Jal Jeewan Mission, in last 5 years we have tried our level best to reduce the extraction of groundwater and focus more on surface water, and surface water is coming from the various sources, even from the glaciers. We have been able to achieve 48% surface water services against 15% in 2019. Right. Now, what we have observed in last 5 years, that especially in northeastern states and Himalayan states, the source is getting dried up. So, in spite of having all the infrastructures available for providing safe water to the population, the melting of glacier is impacting very negative way to our rural population. So, that is very important, and a number of ministries in the Government of India, Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, and other related ministries are working to take care of this subject matter, but still it is very true that it is impacting very negatively in the water service sector.
So, the next question, Mr. Anshuman, is what are we doing to preserve the glaciers? We need that water. Our water needs are going to just increase exponentially because of our rising population, but also the limited access to water resources that a country like India has. So, what exactly are we doing to preserve glaciers?
Firstly, I would say we need to strengthen our scientific research and the glacier monitoring system further beyond what we already have, which is quite good. But I think it's only fair to increase the monitoring system for a better forecasting. So that's the first thing that is required. We need investments in early warning system, which is very important and holds tremendous value for vulnerable zones like our country. And then, of course, we have to look into what we can do to sustain, and maintain water management as a whole, which is about sustainable land use and watershed management practices such as afforestation, catchment restorations, promotion of efficient water use, water conservation, and more importantly, especially in the Himalayan region, traditional water harvesting system. All of these will contribute to build resilience at the grassroots level. And these are the very important, interventions which are required to, prepare us for a climate resilient, society and climate resilient water management as a whole. There have been policy by the government initiatives like National Mission for Sustaining the Himalayan Ecosystem under the National Action Plan on Climate Change. These basically reflect efforts on protecting these fragile regions. There have been other initiatives as well from the government of India. But I think the important is that we need to have a collaboration, because the river system and such, glacial system are not really, does not know the, political boundaries. So we need to have a transboundary dialogue, data sharing and joint research on the river systems and glacial system to have much more better understanding and the better management. Every sector, including agriculture, domestic sector, and as well industrial sector, has to focus on water demand management so that we are able to, address and respond to the climate change impacts on the water resources, and simultaneously make sure that we reduce the, emissions and those factors where, the global warming is basically being contributed through. I mean, we already know that we have crossed that limit of 1.5 degrees and we are somewhere around 1.6, I believe. So we need to make sure that we don't go beyond now the next target, which is 2 degrees, so that we are able to still, able to cope and respond to the kind of, impacts that we have seen over the decades and the centuries. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach, as I said, which is required. At one hand, we need to be better monitoring and looking into the kind of, impacts. And on the other hand, we need to build climate resilient water management systems across the society, across the sectors.
Okay, taking on from what Mr. Anshuman said, Mr. Soan, do we have a strategy wherein, the preservation of glaciers roadmap is integrated with the water management plans that India currently is undertaking?
Yeah. In fact, the government of India has been working very persistently for preservation of glaciers, but at the same time the requirement is also increasing. If you take the example of the forward locations, especially in Ladakh or in Arunachal Pradesh, we are trying to balance the requirements because the population is growing, temperature is also increasing. So both the things are very, very important, and it's very natural to take care of the requirement of the local people. But the effort taken by the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change has resulted in a positive way, and we are looking forward to take it in a very, very positive direction.
And especially with the kind of thrust that we have seen in recent years, tell us about the different aspects of water resource management and supply of drinking water and sanitation services, especially in the rural areas in the recent times.
So, I would like to give 2 or 3 dimensions of this water service delivery mechanism. First is how to ensure the sustenance. So, that is very, very important. So, one effort is being taken by the Department of Water Resources is this Catch the Rain and Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Right. What the government has been insisting very frequently that Jan Bhagidari, role of people and their participation is very, very important as far as preservation of water is concerned. So, this source of sustenance through Jan Bhagidari is very important. Every year we identify approximately 150 districts and those are very, very water starved districts, and then the officers visit there, administrative officers and technical officers, and these visits take place twice in a year, pre-monsoon and post-monsoon. so that we can see the differences, and then we can identify the issues and we can work on it to ensure that water the table is maintained in those districts. That is the first effort taken by the ministry. Second important is how to address the requirement in rural areas through various other efforts like Jal Utsav and Jal Kalash. These are the initiatives taken by the Department of Water Resources, that is the Jal Shakti Mantralaya. So, this is one of the efforts which is providing very positive result.
Okay. Community participation and community engagement is certainly important, very crucial when it comes to water sustainability efforts. But at the same time, what role does technology play in all of these efforts that we have spoken about? Mr. Anshuman, tell us about how traditional technological tools can be integrated with the emerging technologies like AI, like IoT, when we talk about glacier preservation and sustainable water management.
Sure, thanks. I think that's a very important point that you mentioned about, technological, I would say, democratization, where all these innovations and best practices and technologies are really accessible to the grassroots level practitioner. The critical mass impact on the water management can only come if we are able to reach the technologies and best practices to the users and the practitioners, which are, for example, the farmers and the users at the ground, at the local community level. And I think in that sense, let me just first mention that what we need to do is that first, to look into the water demand management, starting with the irrigation. We have a lot of, inefficiency in the irrigation. We have around 35%, 38% water use efficiency. Now, can we use all those information, best practices like laser leveling, tillage, cover cropping, happy seeders, systemic rice intensification, drip and sprinkler systems, and so many other interventions which are there. We have demonstrated this in Punjab under the Pani Bachao Paisa Kamao program of the government of Punjab and the World Bank. The idea is to look into how these best practices and the technologies can actually be demonstrated to the local community and the farmers so that they can adopt to. Now, bringing the AI will further facilitate and fasten the process and ease the operation of the entire program and possibly the extent of impact as well. I'll give you an example since it was mentioned about the Jal Jeewan Mission. We have developed recently a Jal Mitra app. Now we are using the AI and the information and the tools and techniques of the current kind of smart management systems, where we have provided this app to the villagers at the districts, where they are using these tools to basically raise all the kinds of for example, they can report leakage losses, they can do rainwater harvesting knowledge, they can imbibe knowledge from the same app. They can order any kind of replacement or fitment. Everything that is possible within the operation and maintenance of the Jal Jeewan Mission, infrastructure created. Similarly, we can actually have, just giving, example, we can have a Krishi Mitra app, wherein the farmer gets all the information on ground about irrigation scheduling, weather forecasting, extension services, online marketplaces, government scheme and applications, and etc., including the operation and maintenance kind of, information. Now, what I'm talking about is such tools and the use of AI can reduce the time and can give the timely information to the farmer for a very effective and efficient decision making. Right. So, bringing the information, the tools and the technologies and the innovation together will definitely make a critical impact into one, enhancing the impact of the betterment of efficiency in water use, and second will also create an ease of maintenance and operation of the entire water management system. So I'm just giving you a few examples. There are many other examples. We can look into the automated metering system, weather forecasting system, early warning system. All of these are very important kind of critical areas where the use of for example AI and many other technologies can be integrated together to basically enhance the effectiveness of our programs and policies on ground.
Certainly, and you spoke about the best practices. I'll take that to you, Mr. Soan, because when we say community participation, India is a vast and diverse country. The challenges differ from state to state, but there are certain best practices that, of course, we can share with each other to ensure that each of these challenges are effectively met. Are there best practices that that you can cite example of that have been shared from one state to the other and which have proved to be successful when we talk about water management and ensuring safe, reliable supply of drinking water?
Yeah, sure. In fact, there are a number of mini revolutions taking place in India. I would like to give just one example that during this Republic Day period, we invited 400 water warriors. So, we could identify 400 at one point of time. So, a number of innovative practices are being adopted by the rural population. So, we have seen a very good examples. I would like to give one example that in one particular area in Jharkhand, this women's self-help group have been able to collect the contribution to the tune of more than 1 crore rupees for operation and maintenance of their water delivery system. So, without taking any government support, they have taken this initiative, and similarly in other parts of this country, whether it is Tamil Nadu, whether it is Jammu Kashmir or whether it is Tripura, in all the places small innovative practices are being adopted by this population, and we have been able to provide them a platform so that these ideas can be exchanged to one another and that can be replicated in from one place to other place.
Okay. So, you spoke about the best practices. We've already discussed the role of technology, how community participation is extremely vital. But another aspect that I would like to discuss with Mr. Anshuman is the role of partnerships. How are we leveraging partnerships? Because it is something that the challenge is something that cannot be met without collective action. And for that, we will need partnerships at various levels with international organizations, with the NGOs, with also the private sector, perhaps also the academia, to leverage the expertise. So, how are we moving in that direction?
Yeah, I think as I said, earlier, that I think collective action is something which will make the critical mass impact. And as you rightly said, engaging all the relevant stakeholders at all the levels is very critical. Be it the top level policymakers to the central and the state governments, or the line level departments, or the district level authorities, panchayats, and the farmers on the ground. The users, basically, everybody has to be roped in, and with different roles. For example, as I said earlier, can we democratize the technology so that it basically can be reached to the local community at an affordable price and not too much delayed in terms of timing. So all of this cooperation and the cooperation not only within the country but also outside the country, there are a lot of many best practices across the world which can be looked into and possibly with some customization can be adopted as well. So cooperation, leveraging financing, and I would also add awareness and capacity building of all the relevant stakeholders. I think they are very critical for effective implementation of all the programs. There are a number of examples where when the collaborative approach has come across, such kind of initiatives have shown a lot of much greater impact. And I think that should be something which should always be kept in mind when implementing any program or policy.
Okay, I'll take one last word from you, Mr. Soan, on the way forward, because there will be challenges given the vast population and the vast country that we are. But at the same time, that there is a resolve. We have pledged to become a developed country by 2047, which means all of these challenges at least should have a roadmap. We should be able to address the challenges and have solutions to it, work together to address these challenges. So what is the way forward towards ensuring water security, long-term water security?
See that Viksit Bharat 2047 is our target, but before that we have to achieve the SDG 6, that is 2030. So that is very, very important for us. By 2030 we should be able to achieve the target of SDG 6, both for water and sanitation. So that's very, very important. And keeping that priority in mind, this Jal Jeewan Mission was introduced in 2019. As I mentioned that when this mission was started, we used to extract more water from ground to the extent of 85%. Now, it has come down to 52%. So, how to preserve the water both from the ground and from the surface is our priority, so that we can be able to provide safe drinking water in a regular way. So, that is our very important task, and all the efforts taken by the various parts of the government will we are very hopeful, and we are looking forward to achieve this target.
So, the roadmap is there, we know we have strategies in place, the need is just to expedite, make everyone aware of the problem, and then we can all work together to address those challenges. That having been said, I will have to wind up the program. Time allows me to take up only that much on this edition of Perspective. Thank you once again, Mr. Soan, Mr. Anshuman, for joining us on the program, sharing your thoughts and views with us and our viewers. And to you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.